Thank you very much for staying with us here on Morning at NTV, 10 minutes after 8 o'clock. Let's dive straight into our Kickstarter, and we shall be talking citizen participation in budget priorities and implementation. We were having a conversation prior to coming on air with my guests. I'll be introducing them very shortly. Let's first go through our preamble for the morning. Citizen participation in the budget process is a cornerstone of effective governance as well as transparency. Yet, Uganda faces significant challenges in ensuring that ordinary citizens are actively involved in shaping budget priorities as well as holding government accountable during the budget implementation process. According to the 2023 Open Budget Survey, OBS, Uganda continues to rank poorly in terms of public participation, posting a mere 15% score, ranking just above Tanzania, that is on 13%, but falling behind regional neighbors such as Kenya, which is on 31%, as well as Rwanda on 16%. Despite various frameworks provided by the Public Finance Management Act of 2015 and the Local Government Act, which both encourage citizen engagement in the budget process, several barriers are still encountered. This morning, we shall attempt to dive into them and also find out what recommendations are available to all the stakeholders, especially the policymakers, in as far as ensuring that citizens participate fully is concerned. Joining us for this conversation is Honorable Flavia Kabahenda, the woman MP for Kyegegwa, as well as Gloria Nakajubi, the program's lead at the Center for Budget and Tax Policy. Many thanks for joining us on Morning at NTV, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Great. Let me begin with the Honourable Member of Parliament, nonetheless, because you are part and parcel involved in the thick and thin of it, especially when it comes to how the budget framework paper comes through Parliament until the final stage, where we shall see the reading of the budget that will be later next year. First and foremost, what are your gravest concerns when it comes to citizen participation?
Yes, good morning, viewers. I want to thank you very much for hosting us here at NTV. And I want to thank you upon the choice of the topic we are going to discuss today, because this very month we should be starting on the planning and budgeting cycle according to the PFMA, the Public Finance Management Act. And so Uganda embarks on a planning and budgeting cycle every year between August, September to May. And this particular discussion we are holding becomes very pertinent for us to go into. And I want to thank the people of Kyegegwa, who I represent to the Parliament, for giving me the mandate to represent them. And I know all this planning and budgeting activities and cycle is meant to ensure that allocations are put to the most efficient and needed interventions. I heard you talk about ordinary citizens. Maybe this is why people think being ordinary means citizens have no issues to give. They have they have nothing better to input into the whole planning. Citizens are citizens. I am a citizen. But if you started with me as a member of Parliament, how much participation as an MP do I put? Even when I'm a citizen, not as ordinary as people think, but the participation of those who would start in the planning and budgeting is equally very, very, very low, because we are almost getting into the national budget consultation meetings. How do we participate? By attendance? Because there is participation by attendance. Yes, we registered 200 people, they attended, but did they participate?
Did they participate?
Are we just there by mere participation because we are the ones who have been invited? Are we there for effective and meaningful participation? Is there any intention for participation readiness? These are things we should talk about. There must be participation readiness. So that means whoever is involved in the planning and budgeting at that level, whether national or subnational, should deliberately and intentionally make sure citizens don't only attend but participate. Members of Parliament will be invited to the budget conference, national budget conference. In most cases, it is chairpersons of committees. You need to be there and count us.
And vocal legislators.
And count us whether we actually participate. We shall be in our things. But maybe for a lack of knowing that our participation adds into the planning process.
That is right.
The regional budget conferences are supposed to bring very many more citizens to participate. But it will be these technical people who will sit there and wait and do this, and then we go home for just attendance and not necessarily. I've been to some of them. But the participation is not as effective as it would be. If we borrowed from China, China's participation is different. For them, during this July, August, the whole country has different sector discussions and dialogues from where they pick priorities, because academia are there, students are there, the players are there, civil society is there, who are interested in a particular sector discussion to input into the next planning. And then they transcribe that and then get the budget well. I think that is a more effective participation. We need to encourage it because usually people in academia, people in enterprises and entrepreneurship of particular sectors are never anywhere involved or even invited. And so even when we are invited, like here when we are at Serena National Budget Conference, it is the technical people who will speak and then we go home. But we don't hear from the people who are involving directly into the matters of the planning and the budgeting interventions and processes. Okay. So when we go to the subnational, local governments at district, most of the times, I was a district councillor myself, and today I try to go into the district budget conferences. It is just an attendance. And you go, because it will be like half day, money is not there to facilitate it to full day. And for the lower local governments, those ones forgot about bottom planning long time ago. And so that alone, in the annual plans and budgets, makes a disconnect from the needs and problems of the people. It excludes them. It disempowers. There is a missing link between what people need to come out of poverty and also be part of the economics of the country vis-a-vis what people can implement easily because that is what is there. So I think the participation of citizens, first of all, needs to be deliberate and intentional. There must be participation readiness. It must not only be attendance, but effective and inclusive participation.
Wow. Madam Nakajubi, hearing the honorable member literally cause a shock to the conscience of the ordinary citizen who would ideally think that if they are not involved, then the legislator is effectively involved. Speaks of a greater problem than we might be tackling. But in light of the reality that she has just shared, there is what I see as ritualism, so to speak.
Yes.
Simply coming up, appearing, signing up, and then the logistics welfare is taken care of, and then people go. The discussion is largely left to the technocrats at the end of the day. It also means that the technocrats have probably failed to break down the aspects of budget planning and implementation that can help the ordinary citizen become part of it, because that is very essential. You must make it inclusive enough for the average Chris Higenyi at a local level in Butaleja to come up and also speak about these matters. Speak to us about that, but also help us especially with the findings from the Open Budget Survey, the one that says Uganda is at a mere 15% in terms of citizen participation. We are falling far behind countries including Rwanda. I'm not saying Rwanda is the the worst there is, but I think you understand.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Honorable, thank you very much for, I think one key issue that Honorable raises is around effective participation.
Effective participation, yeah.
Yes, so there is participation, but the question is it effective? And like you say, is it about ticking the boxes? Yeah, and I think when we look at that Open Budget Survey findings, it is very absurd. Well, understandably, one could argue that we are not far from the Africa average, which is also around 15%. But the question is that really a comfortable place where we want to be? Definitely no.
No.
Yeah, and if we are going to be, for example, for us as a country aspiring to be middle income, what informs what then becomes those indicators that we're looking at as a middle income country? And as Honorable highlights, if there is that kind of disconnect between the duty bearers and the citizens, definitely there's going to be a gap when it comes to interventions. Yeah, we've seen a lot of work ongoing, but these things do not effectively respond to the issues of the population because there has not been input.
That's right.
Yeah, but again, the other thing that needs to be highlighted, and you pointed to it, is the issue of information. There is no way that people are actually going to effectively engage if they do not understand
what they have to engage on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know we've been working a lot in the local governments of Tororo and Bulisa, but also in Karamoja, and especially for these are more resource-rich areas. Yeah. But the question that usually arises, for instance, they are entitled to royalties. So if we're going to talk about issues of royalties, issues of accountability when it comes to royalties, people should understand what is the share that comes to us, what can we demand. But when you look at the calculations that is required for how they come up with these royalties, it is so complex that people can hardly understand.
That is right.
So they cannot even demand for accountability. Yeah, but you look at Tororo, well-endowed, limestone. I mean, there are all these. There's a lot of the manufacturing sector is really very vibrant. But the question is, does this trickle down to the population that actually is around these kinds of minerals? Because they do not understand. It is been made very complex. So you're going to talk about accountability. How do I start asking for accountability when I don't even know what I'm entitled to?
That is right.
Yeah, so we've had, because one of the things that we've been looking at is really domestic revenue mobilization. But when you raise these revenues, the question is, do they actually go to the population? Yeah, so and then we were looking at, okay, if you have, let's say, royalties, do we see health facilities, do we see schools in these areas actually improving? Because then they are in places that actually are raising these revenues or have potential to raise these revenues. But the challenge still remains. You find that Tororo is struggling with the same issues as other areas that actually
are not endorsed.
Yeah. So there's an issue of information, but also there's the issue of like we said earlier, the disconnect between the duty bearers and the population. Yes, and again, the whole idea, because yes, if the PFMA, the Public Finance Management Act, actually, and the Local Government Act provide for those spaces for people to engage on the budget. But these, a lot of times, are not financed. And I think Honorable highlighted this, like when it comes to the local governments, this no longer happen. But that is where it is supposed to start. The budget cycle, the planning process is supposed to start there. So that you pick the issues from the population, then that feed, because by the time you come to the district budget conference, to the local government budget consultations. You've actually, the idea is that you've picked these issues from the population, and then they're able to feed into this budget. But because that does not happen, yes, the technocrats will take over, and that's why sometimes you'll see the same issues. It's like they go back and then just edit the previous year's budget, and then. But you keep wondering, okay, have we actually effectively engaged people to know what are their needs? So you'll come up with interventions. We put in a lot of taxpayers' money, but the returns
is okay. Now, I know the cycle itself is one that has been on and about for very many years, to the extent that the technocrats maybe think it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to again happen the way it happened last year and so forth. But when I look at the global initiative on fiscal transparency, the one that outlines accessibility, openness, as well as inclusiveness, but it also has the issue of timelines for effective participation. For example, if the budget reading itself is a traditionally known thing to happen in the month of June, and at what point should the process begin? We know it literally begins for the technocrats as soon as the budget is read, then the next cycle does. But at what exact point must the consultations be rolled out, especially from the, should I say, local councils, local governments? How is it happening now when it comes to these consultations? I know it might not be what we want or what we expect, but there must be a level of consultation that is being undertaken. Honorable.
Yeah, you see, when I grew up, I remember that my parents loved the budget.
Yeah.
They almost failed to go to the farms. All the radios would be out.
That is right.
And the citizens would be around the radio to listen to the budget because they had high interest. Today, the budget can pass. And people won't be on their TVs, even when they have them, they won't be on their radios. How do people drop interest to that extent?
That is explainable. And allow me to interject on that. Yes. There is a lot more information available today in the run-up to the budget reading that wasn't available in yesteryears, to the extent that the only avenue that people had was to stay on the radio. Today, by the time the budget is read, it has been discussed, conferences, social media. Maybe people have already gone through and they're bored enough not to listen in. Maybe, but the greater public will tell you they are no longer interested, most of them. There's general apathy. The second thing would be, if we really have economists, because sometimes I ask myself whether we really are using the right economists, those who keep studying trends. If there is something we put in the budget 5 years ago, do we continue to call it an unfunded priority for the next 10 years? You mean you don't even study trends so that you can predict better? Because predicting does not have a timeline on which to start. That's right.
You finish this budget and you say, but how did the other budget conclude? What exactly did we miss that can be put? I mean, it is not supposed to have even time, but it's supposed to be a cycle that goes on and on, because they are sitting on tables trying to study trends 3 years ago, 5 years ago. How did it go? Why don't we put this aside? Why don't we add this? So that by the time the population, the citizens are getting to understand it, they are already participating. These citizens we see, they know their problems. They know their needs, they tell them. And they know how they would wish you to tackle their needs. But because we have just looked at them as ordinary people that may not have even gone to school, therefore they have nothing much to add. And yet, if the citizens participated, these Ugandans, you see, can even tell you about how to raise the fiscal space, to expand it. They will tell you how to find money. Just look at COVID time. They only told them, you know what? We have people who are hungry. and Ugandans were bringing food, and Ugandans were bringing money, and Ugandans were bringing pickups and whatever, eggs, milk, what? Philanthropy for development can only come if you are accountable and transparent. Unfortunately, up to now, we don't know where the eggs went, we don't know where the milk went, we are still here, and tomorrow we shall be calling on them to again come and participate in getting us out of shocks. So the citizens' participation becomes paramount. If we have to get fiscal openness for transparency, if we have to be responsive, you know, people do things, even in court. People can access justice, people can afford justice, but is it responsive justice? Where you put yourself in the shoes. Accessibility can be there, affordability can be there, but is there responsiveness? When we are doing budget, do we have any responsiveness to these citizens?
Okay.
So that their participation is appreciated, their participation is deliberate and intentional, so that they can add up onto what we think could be difficult.
Okay.
So I would like, I think, to say one thing, we need to grow our percentage. How do we grow it? First of all, let us target the leaders, right from LC 3, because these are councillors who also claim to pass a budget.
Claim.
Which budget is thrown at them towards night, big books, English, and so they say, we have passed. What do they do? For them, they want from them only signatures.
Okay.
Then we go to the district council, almost the same thing, passing budget. If these particular leaders were given capacity to participate effectively, maybe the participation levels would go up. Even us, the members of parliament, we need that capacity for us to participate in the budget effectively. I think you have seen us sometime ask about what was in the budget, even when we are the ones who
it's actually very interesting, and I'll just stay with you briefly and ask this fundamental question. Members of parliament are widely distributed across committees, and that is down to the need to decentralize what I could describe right now as the need for an MP to be knowledgeable, informed, in order to make the best possible decisions when time for either voting on a particular bill or piece of legislation comes through. But when I hear you speak, it seems there is deep-seated, disappointment that is also not helping. What particular innovations within the House can help ensure that you effectively participate?
You see, there is a belief that members of parliament know it all. We come from different orientations. And therefore, we equally need that capacity building of how effectively we can look at the budget and be able to even break it down for our communities. In the budget of this financial year, Kyegegwa has this in the budget that is there, that comes to the needs of the people of Kyegegwa. But for everyone to assume that for us we know what to do, it is automatic, it's not as automatic, because we come from different grounds.
That's right.
And so we need that intentionality in capacity building. Not that because we participate, you can come and just give us a half-day talk, which is not even a capacity building, and you think you have prepared us. I think we need more preparedness for participation, right from the top up to the levels where people pass budget, and then we can eventually include the other players, like business people in different sectors, like academia, like all the people interested in sectoral developments, because artisan miners would want to know what in the budget, how do they feature in the budget. Those who are in tourism, those who are in agriculture, they want to see how you do the tax bills, how you do everything like that. So we don't go out with it. We need the capacity building as well, so that we can more meaningfully participate.
All right. My colleague Stephen Mbide is waiting for us to update us on what's on the ground on another critical issue, the state of business within downtown Kampala. We shall be going to him very shortly. Stephen Mbide, do wait for me. Just give me 2 minutes there and do my final engagement. Madam Nakajubi, Kenya scores an impressive 31% on the open budget survey. Are there any benchmarks that Uganda must be able to take on in order to improve on our own paltry 15%, almost half?
I think the key thing for me really is if we can adopt the all-of-government approach to planning and budgeting. That would be very, very important. Because at the end of the day, for instance, the OPM is charged with engaging community barazas. And we used to see the Prime Minister going all over the country, engaging people at their level. The question is usually, at the end of the day, where do those issues end up? Do we see those issues in the budget? No. And that's why, I mean, we have a lot of civil society organizations that try, but I mean, as you can know, they are challenged in a way. But they try to actually come up with these community dialogues, but those don't have to end there. They should inform what becomes the budgets for these communities. So I think it is more around, if each sector is actually engaging the population, then we should see them communicating. Let these issues end up at finance, let these issues end up at the district budgets, let these issues end up in the local government consultation, other than just having, like we say, it has to be effective participation. Yes.
Many thanks, Gloria Nakajubi, Programs Lead at the Center for Budget and Tax Policy. Many thanks to you too, Honorable Flavia Kabahenda, Woman MP for Kyegegwa, for those insightful submissions on citizens' participation. This conversation cannot be exhausted in the time that we have here on Morning at NTV, but I hope that it can trigger new conversations, especially in light of the implementation process that is already underway. Let's go live to our man on the ground, Stephen Mbide, to update us on what exactly is going on in downtown Kampala.